What do you think about the medicine skill? This is definitely, and this is just for context.
Hmm.
If patrons, or for my own sake, really, just to make sure that we're on the same track here. But so in fifth edition, they have the short rest mechanic, which allows players to keep adventuring within that same day. Basically, they can take an hour, they can spend some hit die if they have them, and they can heal. And then you have classes that regain uses of some of their features on that short rest, and that effectively allows for some powers to be powerful, but that require for you to only be able to use them a few times before you have to basically take that breather and then continue. And then in Pathfinder 2E, they effectively made things either on a per encounter, like it recharges basically for every encounter with the focus stuff, or they made it just like this is a once a day situation, including spell slots, of
Yeah.
course. And there's no short rest anymore. Instead, healing is very, very plentiful and extremely easy to get. And this is my interpretation, and you can rebuff it, but very extremely easy to get healing through a skill that just sort of freely heals you so long as you have
Hmm.
the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, is medicine as a skill, is it needed? Like, could you
Yes.
play the game without anybody having proficiency or training in healing?
Okay. No, actually, the answer is no. But what is needed is the ability to heal to full or near full hit points between encounters. And medicine's not the only way. There are, if you have a paladin or a champion in your group, the lay on hands focus spell recharges every 10 minutes and gives you 6 hit points at level 1. Goodberry is another focus spell that druids can get, I believe. And I think there's maybe some low level bard focus spells.
Okay.
But you do need to, if you want to have any endurance in a dungeon or similar situation, you do need some answer to, do you have out of combat healing? I would
Are
also say,
potions
mm-hmm.
are potions strong enough to accomplish that? Like, are they? Could you presumably buy them? Because I don't think that's the case in D&D at all. But like, could you buy potions to sustain that, or would they just get too expensive?
I think they get too expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're more expensive. Those things I shot off were free,
Hmm.
so you
Yeah.
want to do those free things. Part of the context of this conversation too, and what your question for your questions too, is there isn't that much complaining in the Pathfinder community about some things being essential because people have lots of ability boosts and people have lots of skills.
Hmm.
So there isn't much of an opportunity cost to get that medicine skill or to get
Hmm.
that higher wisdom. The character building system like forces you to grow wide instead of vertically. So it's easy for somebody to just, oh, I'll be the one to take up medicine, when you have that discussion as a group. It's
Yeah.
not really costing you. So that's part of the context, too.
The way that I see it, and
Mm-hmm.
again, this is my 5e mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I see medicine checks, and I don't like it. I don't like medicine checks at all.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they're there, because the system, again, like, requires you to be basically near full. So this is like a way for you to just be able to just do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what it feels like to me is, okay, we'll take an hour break, and you
Mm-hmm.
guys are at full HP. How do we make that happen, right? And you can always make it happen. So long as you're not interrupted, you take your 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're full HP. And you can do this without any reservation or any limit. There's no hit die that you have to worry about. There's no spell slots that you have to contend with. You can, I mean, this allows one to basically stay in a dungeon forever if you don't have a caster that uses spell slots theoretically, right? You never should require to leave, except for, I guess, because I don't know much about the balance yet.
Mm-hmm.
I You would have to go back to buy magic items, I suppose. But on the presumption that you start a level and you buy all the magical items for that level, or from the previous level, I guess in this case. And then you go into this dungeon or you go out exploring, you don't have to go back ever, right? Like you could just keep going.
Yeah, I find that's not true, especially at low levels, because there are. Wait, let me think.
There's probably always casters, and casters do want to go back.
Yeah. That's part of the answer. There are daily resources still, but also an hour at low levels, if you don't have the continual recovery skill feat, the players generally don't want to rest a long time when there's wandering monsters.
So I have multiple complaints. So that's one.
Yeah.
And that's a minimal complaint for me. But I like the idea that you can go on forever. You could go close to forever. I don't like the forever part. I like that you could maybe approximate it as long as you're doing something, or if you built into it. I think, this goes against what you were saying was like a benefit of the system. I find it a detraction. It's too easy to just go infinite. It's too easy to go medicine. In the sense that, like, yeah, everyone can get it. And I guess it does get weaker eventually if you don't improve it. And so you have to improve it, which means it's no longer easy at that point, like specifically at the later levels. So that would be like a counter to what I'm saying. And I do agree with that. So that's why I said it was a minor complaint. The big complaint for me is just I like healing. I like playing healers. It's one of the major archetypes for me, right? Because you have like the DPS, you have the healer, you have the tank, right? You have like the support. Like there's these are like the major pillars of fantasy, and healing for me is one that I personally really, really enjoy. And in particular in Pathfinder, I find it so amazing just how powerful healing is. Like it's actually so useful. And then it gets taken back by the fact that if I heal you before the encounter ends, like basically I only want to heal you if I know that you're going to take another hit before the combat ends, because then it's wasted and I feel like an idiot because I wasted it and it's bad.
Yeah.
And so that's my main gripe. It's so easy to get medicine. If I like the idea that like I approach somebody in a role play scenario, you can enter into a medicine, like a medical ward or something, or there's a war going on and like I approach somebody who's wounded and I go like, I'm the cleric. Like I got you. I heal you.
You want the
but
niche.
it feels so. I would have to be, and I'm gonna use emotional language because this is emotional for me, and I'm also a child, I guess. But it feels like I'm an idiot for healing if I do it out of combat, and many times even in combat.
Okay. Well, generally you don't want to spend resources out of combat. Yes, when you have the medicine skill available. What the cleric is much better at than the medicine skill is in combat healing with those extra heals. After we've done 2 battles now in the group, but we haven't really had the fear of death in the group.
Yeah.
The wounded condition, once someone comes back from unconscious, they get the wounded condition. And at that point, you want them to be more, you want them to have a lot of their health. You don't want them to get knocked down again. And if they get knocked down again, you really don't want them to be knocked down a third time, because that could be a crit. And that is instant death. And so you want to heal them a lot of their health, which battle medicine likely will not do as much. And battle medicine is only once per day per recipient. The medicine skill does not really... You can't do that on a long-term basis in combats to bring people up. You need the battle medicine skill feat, first of all. But in combat healing is what magic healing is. That's its domain. This may not convince you, but I'll just say the two design goals that the infinite medicine healing accomplishes. Let's call it that. One is it but Pathfinder does it kind of takes a cue from fourth edition. The idea is that they wanted it so that the designers could balance the individual encounter as opposed to the adventuring day. So, which is extremely hard to balance because many parties are different and will have to the adventuring day, and this allows them to fine tune how tense to make individual encounters more tense, including quote low and moderate encounters, making those feel like they have dramatic moments, because they can up the damage of the monsters and knock you out even in a low encounter, right? Because the party can then just bounce back from that with infinite medicine healing in between. So it gives it makes it possible. That has a number of advantages. It makes the individual combats, it's possible to make those more tense and exciting, and you need to make them closer calls. I mean, they are closer calls, and so you need to think more tactically in them. But also, it gives the GM flexibility to have a one encounter adventuring day or a 10 encounter adventuring day. They don't need to worry about that. They can do hexploration, where the party has one encounter every 5 days in the same campaign where they are exploring a dungeon and they encounter 10 things in one day. The other thing
But on
is
the
that
negative, there is no you can't, like, doing greedy is very difficult. It's like in D&D you can do like if you're traveling, what maybe people do is they use gritty realism rules for traveling. Like if you're playing, I don't know if you're I shouldn't use examples but of adventures in 5th edition, but like there are adventures where it's about traveling, right? And so you set it so that you can only long rest either in cities, or you can only long rest every 7 days of travel, right? Or something like that. And so there is a component of like, okay, well, we have to deal with resources, we have to deal with hit die, we have to make sure that we're keeping track of this stuff. And Pathfinder, because I understand that, like, this allows for a 20 encounter day, but I just don't know why balance it towards like allowing a 20 encounter day. It doesn't. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Wait. What, you don't understand? What? Why do that?
I don't understand why you would want to balance it so that you can do a 20 encounter day. A 20 encounter day. I don't. Because a short rest in 5th edition, like, it still can allow for that, right? You take your hour of rest, or you can even make it easier. You could make it a 30-minute rest.
Okay,
right?
first of all, one could have the same attitude as with 5e. Let's house rule something in. I mean, the house rule here for Pathfinder 2 would be to nerf medicine, or to eliminate treat wounds as an activity. I mean, you could just.
Is that something that happens, or?
I've not heard of that variant. It's not something that people, because I think people want the other design goals that I was mentioning. I think people want the, individual encounters can be pretty consistently tense and exciting. People want that. You cannot accomplish both at the same time. You cannot do an attrition model that.
Drodal, you can. Come on.
At a design at the system level.
At a system level, I mean, what you do, you can. I mean, you have to make sacrifices, obviously, because when you go from like what I would typically call like a free system, where like, you can freely just heal to full, which is what exists now. You would have to restrict it. So you have to make it so that, like, okay, well, you do need to buy more potions. You do need a healer. But you just add healing abilities that take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to cast, which is what D&D does, right? You can have healing spells that take 10 minutes to cast, but are really, really strong. They just heal everyone for like half their HP or something like that, right? And some of these can be ritual spells, to use 5th edition terms. That basically means that as long as you have it prepared, you don't even spend a spell slot to use it. Which, if you wanted to, I don't know how I feel about that. But the concept, like, there are ways to solve it without just making it inherently infinite, which is my concern. And also making it mundane.
Well, this gets to the other second design goal that I was going to get to, which is skills being more important than they are in other systems. One of the complaints of other editions is that Magic trivializes skills, like the rogue who, trained in lock picking or being silent. The mage casts Pass Without Trace or Knock and unlocks the door. And skills kind of is like the democratization of utility, we can call it. In Pathfinder, everyone has access to these defined ways to use your skills that are very important to helping the party, and makes even a barbarian who chooses to max out their medicine skill can be the group healer. For some, they like that idea of having that concept of a shaman, or it lets them, it frees up the number of possibilities of how they can mix character concepts that tend to not be together. And out of combat, having a non-magical way for someone else to have that healer role. Some would say, that is something that's important to a fantasy that they have for their character.
So Pathfinder, I've seen it be described online as, I believe the term is heroic fantasy, where player characters are basically they can reach basically like demigod status, right? By the time they reach max level.
Wait, I'm sorry. Before you move on, I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing.
Go ahead. Dude.
Before I move on. 1 hour is a real... even after you... I found in my games and many of the campaigns I run, there is time pressure. When you're in an environment that has intelligent enemies. You're going to have those mitflits open the door and try to make their own plans or counterattack. So it's not the idea of infinite healing, it's theoretical. So in some situations you do have in fact infinite healing, but that 1 hour cooldown, I don't know, you might want to see session 2 of my Outlaws of Alkenstar campaign on my side channel, but it was comedic. They spent 8 hours trying to do one successful medicine check. Or like 6 hours, and the person who kept failing had the skill feat called Risky Surgery, where
so they take damage.
Yeah, they do 1d8 slashing damage, and he kept knocking people out. He kept nearly killing people, and they had to use hero points to survive.
I'm a doctor, I swear.
Yeah, I think it was session 2. So it's not. And if you were in that party, you would just be laughing at him. And be like, you and your, scalpel and surgical tools, when I have the power of gods on my side, I'm the healer, you and pretender.
Anime. Power of anime and god.
Yeah, there's no there's no role involved with magic, right? So, anyway, I think in practice, there is a niche. May not be the same niche, but there is a niche for the magical healer and fantasy. Anyway, I just want to say that.